Welcome to Western Perspective, I'm Grace Harrington. This week, controversial One Nation Senator Pauline Hanson visited Perth during her nationwide trip to promote against the Voice to Parliament. The Queensland Senator spoke with hundreds of supporters on the No campaign and the First Nations heritage laws, which sparked deep concerns among farmers and developers. While Ms Hanson admits that her views can be polarising, she maintains that Australians deserve to be informed on both sides of this ongoing debate. Here's an extract of our interview.
Pauline, thanks for your time. And
my pleasure.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
We're running a news poll now. We're asking people, have they made up their minds? Around 120 people have put their hands up so far. 89% says they have made up their mind already. Only a handful, around 11% says they haven't made up their mind. What does it mean?
Because they don't truly understand. They haven't been listening to the debate. They haven't tuned into, the TV stations, radio programs. These are people that aren't in contact with the media or getting right advice, direction with it, and they're confused.
So, with so much people already made up their minds, what do you think?
Well, it's a clear indication, my talking to people, that they have made up their minds and they definitely don't want it, so they'll be voting no. So I'm hearing a strong no case for it. People find it divisive. It's not good for Australia.
Around 100 people come and have a listen to you. Does it mean that people actually want to know when they hear both sides, both the yes and the no, and actually make a final decision?
Yeah, look, I think I'm a bit of a polarising figure with regards to this, and people are interested in what I have to say. Look, people may not always agree with everything that I say, but they're interested in what I have to say, and I think that's why, look, there's well over 100 people. There's close to over 200 actually booked to come tonight, but people have made the effort to come here to hear what I have to say, and just to get confirmation of their way of thinking. Well, I'm thinking no, is that the right thing to do? And I think it's a good indication.
Now, in this legislation, the poll has jumped sharply. That's according to the papers only at this point. Do you expect more blowback? Because the government say right now there's a grace period for a year.
Are you talking about the cultural heritage where the polls have turned out? No, the more people understand this legislation, when they see that councils, the Madura Council, I think it is, that have actually been affected by this, they couldn't do the tree planting. People are seeing now how stupid it is and the impact it's having. We're talking about planting trees for the environment and they couldn't even do that. Then you had different Aboriginal groups fighting over the opening of a bridge here in Western Australia. This is what the government's done, introduced legislation that is divisive, dividing us as a people. We are all Australians together, regardless whether you're Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander, or whether you've migrated from another country. We're all Australians, and this is divisive. And this is only a taste of what will happen with the Voice as well.
On the No campaign, you're going to be continuing to go hard on the No case, I assume. Will you be travelling around the country to push for that?
I've done a few speaking engagements with regards to it, with the No vote. Yes, I will. And I think it's important that people have a better understanding and hear what I have to say with regards to it. But I've been speaking out against this since last year, for over a year now, since I heard about the Voice.
Delaying the referendum to around mid-October, do you believe it will be good for the No camp or the Yes camp?
He hasn't given a date yet. He said it will be between October and December. Isn't it funny? Why can't the Prime Minister, the legislation's passed to hold the referendum, why can't he give us a date? Because he's unsure himself, because he's frightened that it's headed towards the No vote, and he's trying to give himself as much time as he possibly can to possibly pull it back.
Would you like to see a prime time debate between both major leaders, featuring Peter Dutton and Anthony Albanese, just on the Voice issue alone?
No, I'd like to see it between Linda Burney and Jacinta Price.
Okay, well, why so, please?
Because they're both Aboriginal, and Jacinta Price has clearly stated her case that she feels there shouldn't be any division between it. So they are both Aboriginal women. They are both stating a case, one's for and one's against.
Finally, what's the next step for you and the No campaign?
Just travelling around talking to people to explain to them why it's important not to vote for this. It is divisive. And we are all Australians, should be treated equally on an individual needs basis. Race should have nothing to do with it.
Pauline, good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
That was Pauline Hanson. Next week, we will endeavour to bring you a response from community leaders who support the Yes campaign in order to balance tonight's interview. And now, here is Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. Just wanted to share with you a couple of thoughts about the upcoming referendum, which there's a lot of talk about the Indigenous voice to Parliament. We've been looking into the health impacts of this because obviously from a medical point of view, the thing we're interested in is will it help us to close the gap on healthcare outcomes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Australia. And the overwhelming opinion of the Indigenous community seems to be that yes, it will. And obviously they're the experts in their own area, but also talking to the Indigenous health provider organisations, they're positive about the idea that having the voice to Parliament could prevent the expenditure of large sums of money on programs that just don't work because they're imposed by bureaucrats and people who don't have the knowledge on the ground that would be helpful. And one example that's been given to us was of the remote dialysis services, where a lot of money was spent to try and set up dialysis for people with renal failure in remote areas, but because they had not cleared this with the local people, with something imposed from outside, the money was essentially wasted because they didn't have the infrastructure in place to deal with such a service in remote areas properly. Governments, I think, often make the mistake of thinking that spending money is the same as solving a problem. And it would be good if that was the case, but unfortunately what happens if you spend money on a bad solution is you just have a bad solution and a lot less money than you had in the first place. So one of the things that really appeals to me in terms of this idea is that Aboriginal people themselves, the people on the ground, will have the same voice in Canberra that people like the AMA do, people like the mining industry and other lobbyists, organisations that can afford to have an organised presence in Canberra. We know it's very important in the medical profession that we keep speaking to politicians directly. The First Nations people don't have the same access to Parliament, and this is a solution that the majority of First Nations people are supporting overwhelmingly to get that kind of lobbying voice happening at a level where we can make decisions that will not only improve things for Indigenous people, but for all of us, because none of us want to see taxpayers' dollars wasted in future, as they have been many times before, on schemes that are thought up by people who don't have on-the-ground experience. Thanks very much for your time.
That was Dr. Andrew Miller, and that's Western Perspective for this week. We'll be back next Sunday. Until then, it's back to you, Ivan and Melly.
Thanks, Grace. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Don't forget to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.